Welcome to Bully Ball, presented by DraftKings. I'm Rachel Nichols, and live and direct from China, where it is 2 a.m, we have Demarcus Cousins. This is dedication, my friend. What are you doing over there?
Man, it's a huge event over here called Gmong 116. It's basically like a big social media influencer thing where, guys come together and play the game we all love, which is basketball. Huge fan interaction deal, and just coming over here, giving these fans a little love, and they're going to do the same for me. So it's a huge event, and I'm excited to be a part of it. So that's why I'm over here in China right now.
I've been to China for a few Nike Tour basketball event type things, and it is bonkers. Like, I don't think people in the States can quite absorb the crowds in the streets, like just shutting down areas wherever you guys are. It's a crazy experience. I'm glad you're having it out there. But we got to talk a little NBA. So I'll bring you back to the United States, at least digitally here, Bug. First up, the Clippers get James Harden, and now they are 0-4 with the beard in the lineup. Harden the problem has not been ball hogging. He has not shot the ball at a high volume at all. 8 attempts per game. He's averaging 14, 5, and 5. Here's really the number that is going to stick with us, though. With James Harden on the court, the Clippers are a minus 67. With Harden on the bench, they're a plus 24, which is the opposite of obviously why they got him. The idea was to raise their championship ceiling. That is not happening so far. What do you think is the biggest issue so far with them struggling to incorporate him?
I think it's a few issues. Obviously, singling out James and putting him on his island. James has to figure out how to change his game. With him being an addition to this Clippers team, who's kind of already have a foundation. James has to figure out ways of getting back in touch with doing the small things on the court, energy and effort. Defensive plays, diving on the floor, things of that nature. The offense and the assists, that's going to come with the flow of the game, but he has to fall back in love and understand that the smaller detailed parts of the game is what this team needs to be successful. It's not necessarily him scoring or him assisting. That's an obvious thing. So once he gets back to that, I think that plus minus will fix itself. And you also just have to get his team time. This is a huge addition to this team. This is a huge talent. It's not as simple as just putting this guy in a lineup and expecting it to work. It's a lot of moving pieces with this team. So they still have to figure that part out as well. And that falls more so on T. Lue in the front office. So figuring out that and making this puzzle come all together, it's going to take some time. And they also have another issue with the team not having a backup big. Mason Plumlee missing time. That affects the team. Once Big Zoo leaves out of the lineup, they kind of have a downfall when it comes to rebounding and protecting the rim. So that's also another issue that they're going to have to fix. So it's a lot of things going on within that team, but it's not as obvious as just, James is now a part of this team and he's the problem. That's not the case at all. It's just some little wrinkles they're going to have to iron out, and I think this team will be fine.
I do agree with that. And look, Paul George was really talking about pace being a problem. He said, quote, "I think the pace is what we haven't figured out yet." Ty Lue's quote went further. He said, quote, "We can't just fucking walk around offensively." He said, "You've got to get to the next action. If you don't do that and do it hard, you're going to get beat every night." We are seeing those results. So to your point, it's something they're trying to figure out that has a high risk, high reward, right? This is a high degree of difficulty operation. And so far it has just looked difficult. But I do think we've got to give them time. Ty Lue said he needed 10 games to figure it out. Honestly, if he can do it in 20, I will applaud him because I think it is just extremely difficult. But we'll see. I don't know. And the big, as you point out, they've got 2 roster spots. They got to fill them, I think, by the end of this week, Boogie. And, they need to stretch big, but I'm not going to talk about that too much. But yeah, I mean, that's a huge part of it, don't you think?
I agree. Like I said, it's and PG bringing up the point of the pace. That's a big thing. And if you know what James Harden's game is, James has a tendency to play at his own pace, and that's an okay thing when it's your team and you're the one leading the team. you could play at your own pace. But now he's kind of fitting into this Clippers team, so he has to match their pace, or they have to figure out what exact pace is going to be. But like I said, I think it's more of small detailed things than really a bigger issue that obviously, people like us and other media members are going to make an issue about. But figuring out those small things, I think this team will be fine. It'll take some time, but I think it's definitely possible to fix.
I mean, Ty Lue said that he thought James was being a little too polite. He's like, we need to let James be James. They had kind of a little team meeting about it over the weekend, just talking about, hey, James, we all want you to step up. I know that there's kind of all this media attention of, is he going to be a ball hog? But the messaging to him was do more of what he does. We'll have to see if that works. I do know that when they had the issues in the last game they played, as we sit here, they fell behind by 15 in the third quarter. Then they used PG, Westbrook, Norm Powell, Terrence Mann, and Kawhi, that lineup with Harden on the bench. That's who got them back into the game. And then Harden came back for the last couple minutes. But it is interesting. They're starting games with all four of them. The idea is that Russ won't be there at the end of games a lot of the time, but at least for his sort of ego and mental state and routine, frankly, like they want to have him start. I don't know. Do they eventually have to figure out a way to put Russ or Harden on the bench when the other one is playing, or do you think it can work with all four of them?
Um, we spoke on it last week. It's
Mm-hmm.
not really about how you start the game. I think
How
I
you
think it's fine for them to start all four, but their issue is going to be how they decide to finish games. And
Yeah.
we spoke on it last week. It's going to be situations where James is on the bench because they need a defensive guard and Russ. And it's going to be times where they need playmaking and shooting. And not saying that Russ can't play make, but he's obviously not as good of a shooter as James Harden. There's going to be times where they need playmaking and shooting to finish out games, and that's where Russ will be off. That's going to be their biggest issue is figuring out how they're going to finish games. And obviously, it's an issue because they're 0-4 right now with James being on his team. Um, they got a big task in front of them, and I think they got the right man for the job in T. Lue. I think he's very, very, very intelligent when it comes to figuring out these problems. I don't think he gets enough credit for being that type of a coach, but I think it's more than possible, and eventually it'll figure itself out.
Yeah. I mean, look, it also has got a lot of people looking back at how they got here, right? I mean, the trade with OKC started this whole era. They got Paul George, and that helped them
Mm-hmm.
sign Kawhi. But just to remind you, it required them to ship out Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, draft picks that turned into Jalen Williams and Trey Mann down in Oklahoma City, plus three more first-round picks still to come out of this deal. I mean, I don't know. When you look back at it, would you do it all over again if you were the Clippers or no?
Would I do it all over again? Absolutely. Setting your
Yeah.
foundation around Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, I think any team in the league, if they had the opportunity to do it, would do the same thing. Um, I don't think it's about. I don't think their issue has ever been about what pieces they put around them. It's always been about health. They've always been in. They've always had a chance every single season. It's just for some reason they can't get over this health bug. But like I said, I think any organization in the league had a chance to do this, they would do it.
Also, you have to remember, like, the Clippers needed to have big stars. They're in an LA market. They're competing against the Lakers for eyeballs, for seats, for television ratings here locally. Like, I just think if you look at the list of assets that OKC has from that deal, of course they're huge and it's great team building. And Sam Presti has been brilliant with all of this. But as great as Shea is, and he is fantastic, when you look at the other players I just mentioned, they're very young, and the draft picks haven't even been drafted yet, the ones still to come. So that's not what the Clippers needed right now. They didn't need a bunch of young players. They needed guys who were stars who
No.
they could get people into the building with and they could energize fans with. So I would do it all over again too. Bug. I just think that, they all got to cross their fingers. It does find a way to work itself out this year, both with Harden and health wise, because all of those guys could leave this summer.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bunch of player options. They could be going into this new arena that's extremely nice that they built with nobody of name on the roster. So I think it will be interesting. There's a lot of pressure, and we'll see if Ty Lue can work his usual magic. I don't know. So let's talk about Minnesota, Boog. Another impressive win on Sunday against the Warriors. The Wolves have won 6 games in a row. These wins have included the Nuggets, Celtics, and Golden State. They have the best defensive rating in the league. They've held opponents under 100 points 5 times already in this young season. That's the most in the NBA. Look, every aspect of this team is clicking. Gobert is actually really fitting in when last season it didn't look like it was working. And then Anthony Edwards, man, he looks very good. Just picking up where he left off over the summer with Team USA. So what do you think is more important? Like sort of how Gobert is fitting in and the defense is so strong? Do you feel like it's just Ant stepping up to the next level? Is it both of it coming together? What do you give their success to?
I think it's a combination of a lot of things. Obviously, Anthony Edwards has found his confidence. He's finding himself in this league. He's realizing that the star that he is at this point in his career. So, and I also think the Timberwolves organization is realizing the star that they have on their hands. I think they're more into giving him the ball and making him the focal point of the offense, which is, I believe, is a smart move on their behalf. Another key thing that I think that's been overlooked is the fact that Jaden McDaniels is back in the lineup. He's back from his injury. He's a huge piece to that team defensively and offensively. He's going to guard the best player every single night. He fits in seamlessly with that team. And Cat doing what he does every night, shooting 60% from the field. He's playing fantastic. I believe Cat is now the second option on that team to Anthony Edwards, which I think works great for that team. And it's no knock to Cat. I just think that's the perfect flow for this team. And Rudy doing what he does, protects the rim, being that defensive anchor every night. I think with the addition of McDaniels being back in the lineup, it makes Rudy's job that much more easier. And everything's flowing for that team right now. And I think they're in a good place. So I think looking back on that trade, everybody looked at it as it was a huge mistake, but obviously they had a vision, and that vision is now coming together. So, kudos to them.
Yeah, it's huge because that looked like a colossal mistake, right? I mean, it just looked like the game had kind of passed Rudy by a little bit, that they gave up too much for him, that the fit with Cat wasn't working, and things looked pretty grim at times last season. And the fact that he's gotten more comfortable, that they figured out a way to work together. The McDaniels point you made is so good. The fact that he can lock down guys on the perimeter, lets Rudy be more Rudy inside. I just think that getting that piece working, even if his individual numbers aren't as good as they've been at times during his career, like clearly the team defense is working. They're the best in the league. I think that's huge. And Ant is not afraid of anyone. I just want to give you a little exchange book from the Warriors game. Draymond, kind of gave him a hard foul. He's like, what are you going to do about it? He used more colorful language than that. I'm just going to put that there. You've met Draymond before. But here was Anthony's response. He said, nobody's worried about you, bruh. Hell nah. And then he went out and scored a bunch of points. So I think the fact that he's not afraid to mix it up. I mean, what trash talk have you had with Draymond over the years?
Man, me and Draymond have had our battles over the years. He's one of the best in the business when it comes to talking you out of your game, making you feel like shit on the floor, or just downright just being disrespectful. So it takes a tough-minded, tough individual to overlook that and still be able to go out and perform at a high level. So like I said, I think Anthony Edwards has found himself in this league. He's found his confidence. He realizes the star that he is, and these type of performances are going to be a regular for him, I believe.
Yeah. Well, look, you learned it firsthand. It's much better to have Draymond on your team than playing against him with all the
absolutely.
There you go. All right, another hot team that we maybe didn't expect to be this hot so far. The Rockets have won 6 in a row, Boog, and that's after an 0-3 start. So that is a huge turnaround. Houston, also a very impressive roster of wins. They've beaten the Lakers, they've beaten the Nuggets, they've beaten the Pelicans, the Kings. Now, a bunch of those games have been at home, but you got to win the games in front of you, and they have won them. And for a team that started 0-3, that is huge. They were a bottom 3 defense for 3 consecutive years. And now they are a top 5 defense. Obviously, the coaching has to have a big element to do with it, right? And then the players stepping up. Fred VanVleet's there now. Dylan Brooks is there now. They've got Şengün, who's been terrific as a big there. Jalen Green has really been strong. They've got depth on the wings. What do you see when you looked at this team? Because they were kind of written off even after the first week of the season this year.
It's a lot of things I see with this team. Obviously, I believe with their best player being their best young asset being Sengun. He's like a
Hmm.
combination of Sabonis and Jokic.
Yeah.
He kind of
Not
ignites
quite
their
either of them yet,
offense,
but
gets the
he's
offense
got
flowing.
the ingredients.
Let me not get ahead of myself and say he's
I don't want
Jokic
you in
or
trouble on the
Sabonis,
internet,
but he's
Buggy.
definitely. Yeah, I don't want to throw any crazy takes out there, but obviously he has the potential to be
Yes.
those caliber of players. He shows flashes on a nightly basis. He's super young. He's 21 years old. Still has a lot of room to grow in his game. So I think he has a bright future ahead of him. But him being the focal point of the offense, keeping the flow of the game going for that team, obviously adding a vet in Fred VanVleet. We know his track record. We know what he brings to the game every night. I believe Jalen Green is starting to come into his own. He's figuring out the game. The game is slowing down for him. And I think the biggest thing that's been overlooked, and we have to get this guy credit. He's taken so much shit over the past 2 years. And it's kind of ironic. Dylan Brooks.
Yep.
We have to give him his credit. Dylan
Yep.
Brooks has come in. He's helped his team win games. He's leading his team. And it's mighty ironic that the team he left is now struggling without him. He's been labeled the villain in the league for the past 2 years, but obviously he's showing his impact and what he brings to teams with this young Rockets team, and it's resulting in wins. So you have to give him his credit as well. So I think this young team is coming together. I think they have a lot of
Hmm.
potential. So we'll see how this plays out.
I love the combo of Dylan Brooks and Fred VanVleet personality wise, right? Like Fred is so laid back. He's a chill dude,
Mm-hmm.
obviously an extremely hard worker. Dylan Brooks, an extremely hard worker in his own way. I think that sometimes gets lost in sort of all the talking he
Yes.
does. But those guys have a meeting of the minds in terms of how they approach the game, but they're very different vocally. And Dylan can be a little bit more of that firebrand. It lets Fred lean back and just run the point and be his own self. And if you think this is another team that almost went the James Harden route. They definitely had some interest last year, and there were reports that, you know, in some of the conversations, James had kind of made it clear through people or whoever that he wanted to get back to sort of that his old Rockets persona and running the show. And again, the reporting was that Ime Udoka was like, nope, no, thank you, we're good, check please. And clearly, by going out and getting Fred VanVleet instead, it was completely the right fit. And Ime, who is a defensive-minded coach who did wonders with the Celtics when he was with them, is right back at it with the Rockets. And I've been super impressed with that team. And it's not easy to dig yourself out of the basement. And it just seems like they've got ingredients. And Şengün's playing great. And I'm very interested to see what happens because it is a tight playoff race in the West, Bug, and that the conference is so deep. And we never expected the Rockets to even be in the playoff conversation, but I don't know. They could be there, especially with the play-in. They could be there at the end of the season.
That's a young, scary team, and any veteran team or team with championship aspirations would hate to face that young, athletic team
Yep.
on any given night. So the West is definitely wide open.
They're a give you problems team. All right, I want to look at some of the marquee games this week. Which is jumping out to you? I'm going to give you a couple choices. Timberwolves at Warriors, so we just know what happened, and I told you about the little Draymond Ant battle there. You've got Spurs versus Thunder. I'm excited about this because I think it's a Rookie of the Year battle. Chet Holmgren versus Wemby. I think that's going to be great. Wednesday, you've got Celtics Sixers. And then on Thursday, Thunder Warriors, and on Saturday you've got Mavs at Bucks. Which the way Luka is playing, Lillard, Giannis, assuming he doesn't get himself ejected again, that could be a really good matchup. Also, which is your sort of one that you're eyeing?
I'm looking forward to Tuesday's game. The Timberwolves and Warriors.
Yeah.
They've played each other before already, and they've already created a little history and animosity amongst each other. So I'm interested to see how that game goes, and we can see if the Timberwolves can continue to be this winning team, and we can see if the Warriors can bounce back and hit them back in the mouth. So we'll see what happens. I'm interested in Tuesday's game for sure.
I like it. Well, now it's time for On the Radar, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, the only sportsbook you need for the NBA season. Let's take a look at the Eastern Conference Championship odds. The Celtics still leading the race. They're at plus 155. The Bucks, though, creeping up there, 185. The Sixers, they've moved up to plus 600, which, by the way, that's already better than it was on Sunday night. So they moved up. They were going into Sunday's game at 700, and now they're at 600. And you could make the case, Boogie, that the Sixers are the best team in the East right now, which is not a sentence I expected to say after a trade of one of their marquee players. They have the best record. They beat the Celtics recently. That game could have gone either way, but it went the Sixers' way. And then Tyrese Maxey dropped 50 points on Sunday night. The first Sixer to do that since the first point guard to do that since Allen Iverson in 2005. And again, let's just have a moment of appreciation for Allen Iverson, our greatest living American. Thank you. Thank you. Angel music here, please. All of that. Yes. But that's a huge, anytime you're in the same sentence as Allen Iverson, if you're a point guard playing for the Sixers, that is enormous. He's going to make the All-Star game at this pace. How do you like their chances? I mean, could they actually win the East? Do you see that as being possible?
Is it possible? Yes. Do I see it happening? No. That Celtics team is so well put together. I just don't really see any team getting past them. And I think at a certain point, the Sixers will run out of firepower. I could be wrong, but my gut is telling me they'll run out of firepower, especially during the playoffs when schemes start getting into play and adjustments are made on the defensive end. So, but as far as Maxey making the All-Star, absolutely. Shout out to my UK brother. Having an incredible year. I'm glad he's able to, be put into this new position and show all his talents. And I think the flow of this Sixer team is perfect. It's really no ball dominant guy outside of Joel Embiid, which is obviously fine with him being the dominant player that he is. But everything else just kind of flows around him, and like I said, it's able to open up Maxey's game and obviously the pieces around it. So I think it's a perfect flow for this team, and I think they'll have a successful season. But like I said, towards playoff time, I think they'll eventually run out of firepower.
Well, it's going to be interesting because the idea in making the Harden trade was getting a bunch of first-round draft picks back. They got that. They're going to be able to package 3 picks if they want to trade for a major player. They've also got a ton of salary cap space opening up this summer. So the plan has been get another big-time major star to play alongside Embiid so that Joel doesn't want to be like, what about the New York Knicks? What about the Miami Heat? Right. They're playing so well that net need is not as pressing right now. To your point about the playoffs, I still think they should make a decent sized move before the deadline because it will put them in better position, and they will still have that cap room in the summer. But it's interesting. Maxey is making this conversation a lot more spicy than we thought it was going to be. He's so good, and he's just a joy on that team also. I know he's so popular in the locker room, and that makes a big difference after kind of all the angst that they went through over the last 6 months. So I love watching him succeed. I also want to shout out and send our best to Kelly Oubre, who was struck by a car on Saturday night, taken to the hospital. He has a broken rib. He's got injuries to his hip and right leg. The driver fled the scene, which don't get me started, but hopefully speedy recovery there won't impact his basketball too much throughout this season. But that's scary, man.
Yeah, and it sucks as well because he was playing so well and at such a high level. So he's been a reason that the team has been so successful as well. So definitely shout out to Oubre and speedy recovery, bro.
All right, we got a little social media in here too because it's time for Doom Scroll. No need to fall into the endless scroll of our social apps. We've got you. I want to shout out to Boardroom putting together this great story about Magic Johnson. Magic said he used to call season ticket holders to learn how they became rich. Boogie, he would look at who was courtside at Laker games during the Showtime era, and he would get their phone numbers from the season ticket office. And he'd be like, how'd you get season tickets? How'd you get rich? And of course, now he's a billionaire. So I didn't know you played with the Warriors where those Silicon Valley relationships have done very well for Andre Iguodala and some of the other guys on the team. Yes. Have you had any notable relationships with any fans or season ticket holders, whether they're financial or not, over your career?
Absolutely. It's the best way to move forward with after basketball. Obviously, you can't do this forever. I think Magic Johnson was brilliant for that, and obviously it just makes sense. You want to keep the company of what you want to become, and picking the brains of these millionaires and billionaires and figuring out, the different businesses you can become a part of outside of basketball is an obvious thing. So I think he did the right thing. That's something that most veterans now preach to the young guys in this league is you want to build those
Yeah.
relationships with those people sitting on the sidelines because they're fans of you and they want to get to know you and they want to help. So
Hmm.
all it really takes is a conversation and it can open many doors for you later on. So I think that's brilliant by Magic.
Yeah, I mean, look, these are some of the most successful people in the country. So those
Yes.
relationships are great to forge, and clearly Magic did just fine. So
Not doing
we'll
too
see. I
bad.
want to shout out Jaylen Brown. Yeah, exactly. He did fine. He did fine. Billionaire is fine. I do want to shout out Jaylen Brown. I really appreciate that he and the Celtics took time before their game on Friday. They were raising awareness for a bill in Massachusetts called Raise the Age. And the bill aims to gradually raise the age of juveniles, the jurisdiction legally, so that you are still considered a juvenile by the court system when you're 18, 19, up to 20 years old. Instead of turning 18, you're treated as an adult.
Before we tip off tonight, I want to bring attention to a bill of legislation that we the Celtics are advocating for. The name of this bill is called the Raise the Age Bill. If you want to learn more, please visit Celtics.com/raise the age to learn more. Thank you guys. Have a good one.
Thank you, JB.
I think that's so important. If you look at the numbers of kids who are still teenagers, they're still so young. Your frontal cortex of your brain is not formed yet. Making decisions and then being put in jail as adults, sometimes in life sentences. I think it's very
Right.
impressive. Jaylen Brown has been using his pulpit to do things like this his entire career. What do you make of this, Boogie?
I think it's dope. Obviously, Jalen he's more than a basketball player. He's advocating for a lot of positive things in our community. I think this move was brilliant. And the reason I can say that is basically, I mean, even at the age of 20, you're still considered a kid. 21, 22, 23, you're still a kid. You're literally graduating college at 22. So to be, treated as an adult or, you lose your entire future from a decision you made as a child is it's just completely unfair. So I think this is a brilliant move, and hopefully, hopefully this bill changing can change some lives, and kids get a second chance at life, and they make the best decision with that second chance. So I think this is brilliant.
Yeah, and the organization too. I mean, this is not popular in all corners of Massachusetts, right? That not everybody thinks this way. So the fact that they're putting themselves out there with Jalen, I appreciate it all. And your point is great. We say college kid all the time, right? These kids in college when
Hmm.
we're watching the NCAA tournament, any of that stuff. So the kids who go to college get to still be kids, and the kids who, unfortunately, because of all of their socioeconomic circumstances, don't get to go to college, they're not kids anymore. I mean, I think this is a big deal. So excellent. We'll be keeping an eye on that
Absolutely.
bill thanks to Jaylen Brown. And I want to get to this one last social media thing here because Jay Kuda on Twitter made this simple yet effective graphic, Boogie Cousins. The Lakers are the only team in the NBA that has not led a game at halftime yet. How concerning is this for you? I mean, the graphic's amazing.
Man. um, it's very concerning, and obviously, I've spoken on this before. Any team that's dependent on a 39-year-old that leads you to every win is it's just not going to be much success behind that. And no knock to LeBron, he's a legend. He's great. He's doing things that we've never seen before from a guy his age. But just to expect that on a nightly basis from this guy is one completely unfair to LeBron, and two is just not really realistic. You have to put. I think the Lakers need a third star. I think Austin Reeves is a great
It's
player. I
supposed to be
think,
Austin Reeves.
which is my point. I think Austin has potential. I think he's going to be a good player in this league. But as of right now, at this stage, he's just not that guy for this Lakers team. They have to get a third star. They have to get somebody to accompany LeBron and AD. Shout out to AD, who's been dominant since the beginning of this season. He's
Yep.
not really getting a lot of credit. And what I hate about this is when he's doing bad, they're all over it. They make sure they post every
Yep.
stat. But
Yep.
him dominating is crickets. So shout out to AD. Continue to dominate, bro. Be the person that you are. Be the player that you are. show the world who you are. But with that being said, they have to add a third star that can complement these two guys and help them win games. As of right now, they don't have that third star.
All right, well, our last item of the day here, Boogie, is an unhappy Zion Williamson. The quote was, "I am trying my best to buy in." Here's the full picture he said.
Like I said last year, we had a team meeting, and it was brought up some things that I could do better, especially like with buying into the program. And right now it's tough right now, but like I said, right now I'm taking a little back seat right now, and I'm trusting the process. I'm trying my best to buy in right now.
Do you have any advice for him?
I'm not understanding what he's frustrated about. The team is built around Zion. I'm not really understanding how he's frustrated or he's taking a back seat. It's hard winning games in the NBA, and this is a struggle that most athletes have to deal with. Professional athletes have to deal with, and when you're so used to winning your entire life, and you get to this situation where it's just loss after loss after loss, or you feel like things aren't going your way, you can eventually get to this boiling point of putting out comments like this. Just continue, bro. Continue to trust the process. Continue to trust the coaching staff. Trust your teammates. You've already kind of had a negative, look on your career with, the weight challenges, the injury challenges. You now don't want to add another layer to it to where now teams or organizations are looking at you as a negative. So just trust this process. Right. Try to keep as many of your frustrations to yourself. And if there are any frustrations, just put it all out on the floor. Go rip the rim off on a nightly basis. It's hard to win games. It's super hard to win games. But adding frustration to that is only going to worsen your problem. So just try to be as positive as you can. Try to bring as much positivity to this group. And hopefully it'll right the ship.
Well, Boogie, I got to tell you, you brought it today. Energy. It's literally the middle of the night there in China. We are very, very grateful. We're grateful to all of you guys for sticking with us. We appreciate you signing on. Please subscribe. Please give us those 5-star reviews. It helps with the algorithm. And we will see you next week. Bully Ball, you can get it on YouTube, Showtime channel, and you can also get it wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, I don't know, an actual Apple. You can find us. See you soon.